According to staggering new research on the high-fat, high-protein carnivore protocol, three key factors determine whether this eating approach merely works or whether it transforms our lives, reversing incurable diseases, and delivers the vitality big food and big pharma never want us to know. And unfortunately, majority of carnivore followers are unaware of these three pillars of success. But you don't need to worry any further. Let's have a concise look at these three vital factors, with Factor 3 and Factor 1 being the ultimate game changers for majority of us. Starting off with factor number 3, the necessity of electrolyte balance. This factor is very often overlooked, but the truth is that it largely makes or breaks the success on carnivore diet. Science reveals that electrolytes, sodium, potassium, and magnesium, are not minor details. They are the electrical current of our life, powering our nerve signals, muscle contractions, hydration, and blood pressure regulation in the body. Without them, even the best diet falters. Actually, on carbohydrate-heavy diets, like the standard American diet, high insulin levels force the kidneys to retain sodium and water. But as we switch to the carnivore diet, as soon as carbohydrates are removed, insulin drops and the kidneys flush sodium more freely. This explains why many new carnivore eaters experience dizziness, headaches, fatigue, or cramps, not because the diet is deficient, but because electrolytes are being lost too quickly. This is the so-called keto flu, a phrase that misleads many of us into thinking that the diet itself is harmful. In reality, it is an issue of sodium, potassium, and magnesium deficiency. Sodium is the foundation. Without adequate sodium, blood volume falls, energy wanes, and muscles misfire. On carnivore, most people need 4 to 6 grams of sodium daily, often more for athletes or heavy sweaters. Liberal salting with mineral-rich salts, such as Himalayan pink salt or Redmond's real salt, restores balance and prevents the cascade of symptoms many mistakenly blame on the diet. Potassium, supplied abundantly in red meat, eggs, and seafood, maintains heart rhythm and cellular hydration. Magnesium, although present in animal foods, is often inadequate due to modern soil depletion, and supplementation can support sleep, prevent cramps, and stabilize insulin sensitivity. Clinical pioneers including Dr. Stephen Phinney and Dr. Eric Westman have emphasized for decades that the majority of symptoms during carbohydrate withdrawal are in fact electrolyte imbalances. As soon as we adjust sodium, potassium, and magnesium in our carnivore meals, individuals not only adapt smoothly, rather thrive with energy and resilience beyond what they experienced before. In practice, electrolyte needs vary, but the principle is universal. While on carnivore, salt your food generously. Listen to your body's signals. Cravings for salt, muscle cramps, fatigue, or poor sleep are all clues. The key is to adjust accordingly. Over time, as the body stabilizes, electrolytes become second nature, a quiet background to the thriving health carnivore diet delivers us.
Moving to something really important, factor number 2, the role of meal frequency and intermittent fasting. The second factor that determines the depth of healing on the carnivore diet is not just what is eaten, but when it is eaten. A closer look reveals that the modern prescription of 3 meals a day plus snacks is not rooted in biology, but in commerce, a rhythm designed to keep people constantly eating, constantly buying, and constantly hungry. Human beings did not evolve to graze. We evolved through cycles of feast and fast, eating abundantly when food was available and fasting in between. This rhythm gave our bodies time to burn fat, repair tissues, and clear cellular debris. It is this rhythm that the carnivore diet, combined with intermittent fasting, can restore effortlessly. One of the greatest gifts of carnivore is satiety. A plate of steak and eggs fuels the body for at least 10 to 12 hours, leaving no cravings in its wake. By contrast, a breakfast of cereal and fruit juice spikes blood sugar, then drops it within 90 minutes, leaving the eater desperate for another fix. On carnivore, because insulin barely rises, energy remains stable, and the body draws effortlessly on fat reserves between meals. For many, intermittent fasting is not something forced, but something that happens naturally. They forget to eat, not because they are starving, but because they are finally nourished. At first, most people eat 3 meals a day, but within weeks, satiety increases and they find themselves only eating twice. This 2-meal pattern, often called 2-MAD, extends fasting windows, reduces insulin exposure, and gives the digestive system long stretches of rest. People with obesity, insulin resistance, or fatty liver often see dramatic changes at this stage. Blood sugar stabilizes, waistlines shrink, and cravings disappear. Some, as their adaptation deepens, move further still into OMAD, 1 meal a day. This concentrates nutrient intake into a single feast and leaves the body fasting for 23 hours. The effect is profound. Insulin sensitivity is maximized, autophagy clears away damaged cells, inflammation falls, and energy soars. Many report sharper mental focus, deeper sleep, and relief from autoimmune flares during these extended fasting rhythms. Modern research supports these experiences. Studies from Harvard and the University of Illinois have shown that intermittent fasting reduces insulin, lowers triglycerides, improves blood pressure, and calms inflammation, even when no calories are restricted. Combine fasting with carnivore, which already eliminates the inflammatory triggers of processed food, and the synergy delivers results that medicine cannot replicate. Case reports abound. Diabetics discontinuing insulin, obese patients losing 100 pounds without hunger, autoimmune patients regaining their lives. Perhaps the most profound benefit of fasting with carnivore is the restoration of metabolic flexibility. Modern diets have locked people into a single fuel system, glucose, requiring constant snacks to maintain energy. Carnivore reteaches the body to burn fat as its primary fuel, and fasting then becomes effortless. People no longer eat by the clock, but by genuine hunger, a state of freedom almost forgotten in the modern world. They rediscover what it feels like to control food rather than be controlled by it. And in that discovery lies a second key to lasting health.
And up next, we have the crucial most factor, which ultimately decides the degree of success on the carnivore diet. But before moving to that, we would like to know, which diet are you following these days? How has been your experience so far? And do you have any tips and suggestions for our fellow carnivore followers? Do share in the comments. And now, the real key to carnivore success. Factor number 1, setting the correct fat-to-protein ratio. Among the most critical elements of success on the carnivore diet is finding the right balance between fat and protein. These are the 2 pillars of carnivore, the only macronutrients truly essential for life. Protein builds muscle, repairs tissue, fuels the immune system, and supplies the raw materials for hormones and neurotransmitters. Fat provides energy, constructs cell membranes, stabilizes hormones, and supports the brain. The balance between them determines whether someone thrives, heals, or stalls. When protein dominates without sufficient fat, the body is forced to convert excess amino acids into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. While this process is natural, an overload can elevate insulin, prevent deep fat adaptation, and leave a person fatigued, irritable, or constantly hungry. On the other hand, when fat is consumed in abundance with too little protein, the body may lack the building blocks needed to maintain lean mass, repair tissues, or sustain a resilient immune system. Here is a breakdown of 3 standard fat-to-protein ratios, resulting in different outcomes. For individuals suffering from advanced metabolic illness, severe insulin resistance, long-standing type 2 diabetes, epilepsy, or even neurodegenerative disease, a fat-dominant approach, often close to 80% of calories from fat and 20% from protein, proves profoundly therapeutic. This ratio drives the body into a state of deep ketosis, where ketones replace glucose as the primary fuel. Clinical studies of ketogenic diets have shown that seizures in epileptic children can be reduced by more than half when fat dominates the diet. Individuals with Alzheimer's disease often show measurable improvements in cognition when ketones become available to a glucose-starved brain. Within carnivore, this fat-dominant state is achieved not through supplements or shakes, but through real food: ribeye steaks, marrow bones, suet, butter, fatty lamb, and egg yolks. The results can be life-changing. Case reports describe insulin-dependent diabetics freeing themselves from medication within months, with their blood sugar normalizing for the first time in decades. For most people, however, the balance lies closer to 70% fat and 30% protein. This middle ground provides ample energy from fat while supplying the protein necessary to preserve muscle, repair tissues, and maintain immune defenses. There are also those who require more protein relative to fat, often athletes, bodybuilders, or people recovering from illness or injury. For them, a 60% fat to 40% protein ratio is appropriate. This ratio ensures a steady supply of amino acids to fuel muscle growth and repair, while still keeping fat high enough to preserve hormonal health and provide stable energy. What makes the carnivore diet remarkable is not a single fixed ratio, but the adaptability of these ratios to individual needs. And when the fat-to-protein ratio is dialed in correctly, the results are not incremental but transformative. HbA1c levels dropping by multiple points, fatty liver disappearing on scans, autoimmune symptoms vanishing, and weight loss occurring without hunger or struggle. So friends, there you have it, the 3 factors that separate those who merely survive on carnivore from those who truly thrive. By the way, how are you adjusting these factors on your carnivore journey? And how has been your experience so far? Do share in the comments. Subscribe to our channel, helping us spread the healing power of carnivore diet to as many as possible. See you in our next Game Changer Carnivore video.